then you're welcome to, and other people can see. Can you hear, Matthew? Does it sound good? If you have just arrived, you can introduce yourself if you want to. Let me know where you're from. I can see your comments on the side. And we are on 1:30. So if anybody has a question they would like to ask to start the ball rolling, then just type it out for me. Okay, sounds good. So if anyone has a question they want to start the ball rolling with, please go ahead and ask. I also have a list that people have sent me. Hi, Alison. How are you? Thanks for letting me know you're here. You can go ahead and ask questions. And if I have none, I have a list that I'm going to go through, and then we can see you can ask questions following on from other people's questions if you want to. Okay, I'm going to start. Okay, firstly, I'm just going to introduce myself while you guys are go ahead and type questions, but I'm just going to keep going. I'm going to introduce myself. I am a homeschool mummy of 3 kids. As you read on the writing, my oldest is 21. She's just finished university last year, and a 16-year-old and a 14-year-old, and we have been homeschooling forever. Well, not entirely forever, but my oldest daughter went to grade 1. She's 21 now. And I knew about homeschooling because I come from a family of aunties and uncles that homeschool their kids. So I always thought it was a wonderful idea. And it wasn't a foreign thing to me. But with my oldest daughter, I thought to myself, oh, goodness, what if she misses out on socializing, and maybe I should just send her to grade 1 and just make sure that I'm not missing out. You know, we have all those worries that I'm sure a lot of you have, or most people have, is what about socializing? Am I going to be depriving her of this? So I sent her to grade 1, and after sending her to grade 1, I realized she wasn't going to be missing anything. Definitely as far as socializing goes, because the kind of socializing that happens in a school is not quite, wasn't what I thought it would be. And I realized, okay, on that front, she's not missing anything. So it calmed me, and we're all quite nervous at the beginning because it's quite a huge responsibility to homeschool your kids, and it's not something to be taken lightly or to be just jump into. So then I took her out, and from then on I just homeschooled all the rest of my kids. And oh, Matthew's okay, Matthew, you're planning on it in the future. Okay, so after that I realized, okay, I'm gonna just be homeschooling all of them, and this is where we are now. So it's been the most wonderful experience, and I highly recommend it to people. But one of the questions, or one of the things that have come up often with people, is that I often get people saying, I want to homeschool, but my husband or my wife don't want to, and all my parents are freaking out because they don't think it's the right thing to be doing. So that often comes up, and what I would recommend now, and what I always recommend, is that if you're going to be homeschooling your kids, then it's really, really important that mommy and daddy are on board together on the same page, because it's very, very stressful homeschooling kids when not everybody's on the same page. So yeah, for us, very grateful that when I wanted to homeschool, my husband, he just didn't even question. He was just, okay, sure. So that made life very, very easy for us. So definitely, I don't know, is there anybody here who is thinking about homeschooling, but maybe their husband or their wife, or maybe even parents, I've had parents and grandparents that are skeptical and worried, and there's a big drama in the family about that. So if there's anybody here who's experienced that, you can just let me know. And that definitely is a factor that I've noticed over the years with people who want to know about homeschooling. And it's because it's such a big responsibility, it's quite important that everyone's on the same page and that they're supporting one another and agreeing with one another that that is what they want to do. But I know it takes a bit of research and time and effort to for them to be on board with you. So I would definitely recommend everyone's on the same page in your family when it comes to homeschooling. And then I'm going to just go through some of the questions that people have sent to me, and then if you have questions about it, you can just hoy and ask. Okay. One of the questions that I have been sent is can you take your child out of school in the middle of a school year? Alison says, I have a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old. Okay, due next week, 3rd. Oh, okay, we're still very early stages. Okay, Alison. So it's early stages, yeah. It's nice to, I definitely have to say that I admire people who from the beginning of starting to have children are already thinking about this and taking it seriously. So thinking right at the beginning, I've always admired that a person can be so forward thinking from when they start having children. Like Matthew, you haven't even had kids yet, and Alison's just having a baby. So it's definitely wonderful that you're thinking about this so early, and even doing your research and calming your mind and looking around, and it's very nice. I think it makes life a lot easier if you can do that. So that's great. Sorry, the question that I had that somebody sent me that I'm going to answer. Hi, if you've just arrived, you can just say hi on the chat, and I'll be able to see your messages and ask away. Okay, I'll read them all. But one of the questions that I'm going to address is that can you take your child out of school in the middle of a school year? These questions are random and they're not according to the biggest asked questions or important questions. I'm just answering the ones that I see, okay? And the answer is that yes, you can. You can take your child out anytime that you want to. You are not, hi Keith, hi. You're not obligated to, of course, if your child is in school and you want to take them out to homeschool, of course, you have to abide by your payment system that you have at the school. You have to give notice with regards to school fees and paying, okay? But you can take them out anytime you want to. It doesn't make a difference when. There are people who feel nervous about taking them out in the middle of a year because they think that they must finish the year and the exams at the end because they can't go halfway, and they want to, in their own mind, calm themselves down that they've finished something and then they're starting. And that's very understandable, especially if the parents themselves were at school and in the system themselves, and they don't know homeschooling so well and how it works. Then to calm their own nerves, they want to finish and start neatly afterwards, even though it's not necessary. And also some children, it calms them down. And also parents, I've often had parents say that they want to teach their children that they must finish something properly and then start the next thing and not just quit halfway through. So if you're trying to teach them a moral sort of ethic like that, and obviously everybody has their own reasons, then it makes perfect sense. So ultimately, I would say that if you're in a situation where you want to take your child out of school, then you don't have to wait. You can take them out straight away. It's perfectly fine. But if it freaks you out and it makes you uncomfortable and panic because you're doing it like that, then just calm down and just do what is best for your child and your family and your nerves. But if you're in a situation, I've had lots of people say they're in a situation where it's traumatic for the child and something's happened and it's urgent and they really want to just take them out straight away, and you're not obligated to finish it. Yeah. Okay, so I hope that answered the question well. If anyone has a question on that question that wasn't clear, please just hoy the questions in the comment box. Okay, I'm going to go through another question that somebody asked, and that was, do you have to speak to the school about the decision to home educate? Okay. And the answer that I have from my guys, can you just remember I'm answering from my own experience, and I'm answering with my own opinion, and I'm answering, but I'm using experiences from other people and stuff that I've seen along the way. So these are all my own opinions and from my own experiences. Okay, bear that in mind. Everybody has different things to say, and lots of people that you speak to will have their own perspective and they will have their own experiences. And it usually comes down to different parenting styles and different family situations. Okay, so I should have said that at the beginning, but I know most of you probably gathered that. It's going to be nice for you, if you really want to know about this, to speak to lots of different people and to get a wide view, because there isn't only one way of homeschooling. It's very specific to the learning styles of the children, the family dynamics, what is going on at home, the parenting styles. It's very specific to that. It's not like a one way fits all children and all families at all. It's totally different to being at school. Okay, so will you bear that in mind when we're talking? And also that sometimes some of the things that I say might apply to you in your situation, and there is no you're the boss of your own. You and your husband or your wife are in charge of what's going to be happening over there. There's nobody that can tell you how you must or mustn't do it. Okay, so I think that when you are a parent and you are thinking about homeschooling, that is one thing I say to people all the time, is that you've got to remember that it's a total mind shift, because you are now in charge. You're solely responsible for your child's education, and not only the education, everything. And you don't have to do what anybody else says. You make the rules. Okay. And I know that sounds simple, but it is actually quite a mind shift, because you used to having that whole responsibility on a school and on somebody else, and now it's all on you. And people are not really used to being totally in control of the next step and what's going to be happening in their family. It takes time to, except some of you are probably, if you've been thinking about homeschooling before you even have kids, you're probably more wiser or more experienced than I was when I started, because it was a mind shift for me to realize, okay, hang on, okay, we are solely responsible. We make the rules here. So it is a bit of a mind shift. You can let me know, anybody over there who, Alison and Matthew and Karen, if any of you, and Keith, if any of you have experienced that, and if for you it is difficult to wrap your head around the fact that you are totally, your family are making the rules for how this is going to happen. You're not answering to anyone, really. So if anyone has experienced that, you can let me know. Okay. I think I digressed from the question, so I'm going to go back to the question. And the question is, do you have to speak about the school? Okay, so there have been, hello, my daughter. There have been, it depends on your relationship with the school. So I would say that I'll call some of my kids in just now if anyone wants to meet any of them. Okay, I've asked them if anyone wants to chat to them directly, then they're available. So hi, new person, just introduce yourself if you want to. It depends on your relationship with the school. So if you want to take your child out of school, obviously it would be, you don't have to have the school's permission to take your child out, because it's your child. And you don't need anyone's permission to take them out. But if your relationship with the school is, obviously you're not going to, it's not sort of, it's a bit rude to just take a child out without letting anyone know. So obviously you would let them know, but you don't need their permission to take your child out. But you do have to, if you're obligated in a contract with them, you obviously have to continue paying until you have to give them notice. But you definitely don't need their permission. Okay, that's also another mind shift for people, is that they are used to sort of somebody else being in charge and in control of what goes on, and feel like they need to answer to people, but you don't have to. So if you're ready to take your child out, you don't have to explain yourself. You can just send a notice and say, we won't be coming back next term, the fees are paid. You don't even have to say why, because you're not obligated to even tell anyone why you're taking them out. It's private. You don't have to. But if you have a relationship with the headmaster and you want to discuss it and talk about it, it's entirely up to you. Just hang on for 1 second. Okay, so sorry about that. If anyone has taken the kids out of school and experienced, had an experience with that and wants to maybe comment about that, it would be nice to talk about it, then other people can learn from you. If you talk about, hi Marby, hi. Okay, so if anyone has had experience with something that has happened with them taking their kids out of school, you're welcome to comment. I will tell you from my experience. When I took her out, I remember the school being, I did feel a bit, because I wasn't sure about what my rights were at the time, and lots of people aren't sure of what their rights are. I did feel quite vulnerable. I did feel like a little bit, I don't want to, the school weren't nasty or anything, but they did make me feel like I needed to explain, and they didn't want me to take her out, and they did say things like, you shouldn't be doing this, it's not right, and so I did feel, and I wasn't so confident and sure, and I didn't know my rights so well, so I did feel a bit overwhelmed. And what I did at the time was I called the Pestalozzi Trust, which is it's a group of lawyers that protect the rights of homeschoolers in South Africa. So so that's what I did, and they were really confident and sure, and told me what my rights were. They even phoned the department, and they settled everything, and they told me what was going on in the law and what my rights were, as I said before, and really calmed my nerves. Okay. Now, obviously, if I had to do that, I would be much more relaxed, and I would just know that it is my right to take them out, and I don't have to explain to anybody why I am. Okay, so I do know what that feels like, to feel vulnerable, to feel unsure, to feel like you have to explain, to feel like you don't have the right. I know what that feels like, but maybe I can save you a bit of stress in letting you know that you, out of everybody, are obligated to do what is in the best interest of your own children, and nobody has that right over you. So I know it feels silly saying that. Not silly saying that. I know it seems obvious for me to say that, but unfortunately, people often feel insecure about that, and they feel like they don't have the right. If anybody has felt like that before, let me know. Okay, it's nice for other people to see what other people have been through. Okay, so if I haven't answered everything on that question, will you let me know, and I will address it some more. Okay, just checking if there are any questions there. Okay, I'm going to go through these questions that have been sent. Obviously, the one burning on everybody's hearts, probably, and minds, is, do you have to register with the Department of Education to homeschool? And sorry, I just want to go, while we're here, I just want to maybe talk about the difference between homeschooling and people that have been forced into keeping their kids at home because of lockdown and this whole pandemic that is happening. If there's anybody in this thread who has had to bring their kids home because of lockdown, can you just let me know as well? It'll be interesting to see, because there is quite a very massive, actually, difference between homeschooling and lockdown schooling. So taking your kids out of school because you have to, and then continuing with doing their schoolwork given by the teachers at home and keeping to that schedule so that they can go back into school is absolutely miles apart from normal homeschooling. So they're quite different. And I think that what's been happening is that people that have had to bring their kids home because of lockdown think that it's the same as homeschooling. And it's not at all. It's totally different. So, but it probably must be very overwhelming for people to have to suddenly do that, not out of their own choice, without preparing their minds, without preparing their family, just suddenly thrown into that. So I can understand why it must be quite traumatic and very different to consciously deciding that you want to do that. Okay, so if anyone has questions about the lockdown schooling and homeschooling and more differences, then you can also ask them online. Okay. And now the Department of Education. So basically, I don't know in the UK, Matthew, if what's other countries. I'm going to talk about South Africa. But in South Africa, by law, you have to register with the Department of Education if you want to homeschool your kids. Okay, but probably, I can't give you the exact percentage, but probably more than 90% of the people in South Africa who homeschool don't register with the Department of Education. And the reason is that they feel that registering with them is not in the best interest of their child. So, and you as a parent are obligated to do what's in the best interest of your child, and therefore most of them don't register with the department. And the reason why they decided that they don't want to is often because if you see the regulations and the requirements of a person that is registered with the department, they want you to use certain curriculums. So they want you to use the government curriculum, and they want you to do things like, if they randomly visit you and they check and they make sure that you have a little classroom in your house, and that you have a little register thing, and your home must be like school according to their regulations. And lots of people who homeschool feel that it isn't. They want to do other curriculums that are not government curriculums. They want to. They don't want to be monitored, and they feel that it's an infringement on their children's their children's rights, their privacy, basically, to have government officials coming. So they feel it's not in the best interest of their children. And the other reasons why, sorry, I'm just going to answer from Alison. Oh, yeah, Alison, she said that the registration is the nerve-wracking part, and I hear you, because even for me when I started, it was, and for every person that I speak to, that is the question burning on their mind, is the registration part. I know lots of people who homeschool, hundreds and hundreds of families, and out of them, I only know one who is registered. And yeah, and even she registered. Even she understands that it's not ideal. But there are people who are registered and they're fine. They don't mind running their home like a school. It doesn't bother them. They do the government curriculum. They don't mind the restrictions. There are people who are registered and they say, no, we like it. And each to his own, because everybody does this differently. And you must do what's best for your children and your family. So I have met people who do it, and I have met people who do it and say, nah, they're not really happy that they did. And I have met people who do it and they're quite fine with it. So, but for me, I don't want somebody else telling me what my children have to learn. I don't want people randomly visiting me. I don't want to make my house into a schoolroom. I don't want to have to go and write exams at a school, have people assess my kids and stuff like that. I feel like it's an infringement on their rights. Hello, Catherine. So, but, it is nice to know your rights. So, as I mentioned, the Pestalozzi Trust before, I've registered with them. I think we started by a family, and in our documentary that we're making on home education, we've interviewed them. For me personally, I feel very relaxed that I have lawyers protecting my rights, and some people register with them, some people don't. I like having that reassurance. So I can put the link below if you want to go and look on their website and see. I think you pay something like R1,000 a year or something, and then you can call them and then you have lawyers. I've never needed them. I've never had, I don't register with the department. I've never had anybody like bothering me about it. I'm in the public eye a lot. My kids tell everyone they homeschool in the newspaper, no one's ever bothered me about that. But we don't know, you must just take responsibility yourself for your decisions, and you must stay abreast of what is going on, and you must know your rights. So I don't want to, remember, this is my opinion. Hey, I'm not going to I don't want to tell you what you must and mustn't do, and you must remember you must take responsibility for your own family if you decide not to. But those are my reasons for not wanting to. And you must also remember that when your child is 15 years and older, they don't even have to be in school. So if they're 15 and older, by law, you don't have to be in school when you're 15. So if they're that age, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter anyway. Yeah, so I have to say that I have met people I have to say that I have met sorry, now I lost what I was going to say. No, I've lost what I was going to say. Okay, if anyone has a question about the department, what about registering with East Cape Homeschool Association? Oh, okay. Speaking about all the different things that there are around, now you must do your own homework. Okay. In South Africa, there are amazing people who homeschool. There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and thousands of families around South Africa, more than you realize. There are lots of different organizations and groups of people that have come together, and they try and they form little organizations like the East Cape Homeschooling Association, the Western Cape Homeschooling Association, like the Homeschooling South Africa, and you can find all these different groups, and you can go on there and look on their websites and see who they are and what they do, and you must do your own homework with that, and you must go and just see if you want to find out all of these things, listen to all of what everyone has to say, make up your own mind about how you can connect with one another and who you can connect with. So there are lots of different places that you can find info. You need to go online and you need to do your own research, and you need to discern, and you need to it's a lot of homework that you have to do. Not one person can tell you this, you must do this, you must do that. You must go and figure that out yourself. Okay, so that is another thing that I've noticed that homeschoolers struggle with, parents, at first, is that they're so used to being in school and someone telling them what they must do and thinking that there's only one way of doing something, that they forget that they're now responsible. You're the principal, if you want to put it that way. Even though we don't look at homeschooling like a school at all in our home, it's a family. But I'm just using that as to give you an idea of what I'm saying. Okay, so they think that you must remember that no one's going to do your homework for you. No one's going to tell you what to do. No one's going to. Some people might tell you what to do, but you need to make up your own decisions, and you have to be held accountable for your own decisions. There's nobody you can go to and say that was a mistake. Why did you make me do that? Okay, so that is what I've noticed that people struggle with at first, is that feeling of, I am entirely responsible. It's up to me how this is going to work. My husband and I, or our family, nobody else is taking responsibility other than us. And nobody's going to make things happen. Nobody's going to, other than us. We have to make them happen. And that's a mind shift in itself. Okay, so when you're going and looking at all the different organizations and all the things out there online, and there are lots, you can connect with people, and you must go and decide for yourself which ones you want to connect with, and who you can learn from, and who you trust and who you don't. And who maybe you meet people that have similar values to you, parenting styles, and you connect with them, and people form naturally and organically. People form their own groups. They form their own groups, according to morals, values, lifestyles, and so that you can connect with people that are similar, and build each other and make a community. That happens naturally, but it takes effort. Okay, so if you started homeschooling, you've got to make that effort yourself. Just a reminder that you don't have to register with anyone when you homeschool. So if you just say you've decided not to register with a department, you don't have to register with anyone. That's what I want you to understand, is that it's not the same as school. Homeschooling is not the same as school at all. You don't have to register with any association or anywhere with anyone, or ask anyone's permission, or any of that. That's the mind shift, is you don't have to do that. You can homeschool without telling anyone, or registering anywhere, or being in any person's books, or on any person's website, or you're not obligated to do that. Okay, I hope that answers a question. People think they must do that because they're used to school. They think they come out of school and I must register with some sort of an organization to homeschool. The only organization there is your family and your decision that you've made. The reason why people go to different places is for support, knowledge, learning, those kind of things. But you're not obligated to do that. Ashley, I hope that's reached enough of what you were saying. I hope if anybody has any questions about that, go for it, ask. If I can't answer the question, I will put you in contact with someone who does. Okay. Okay, the other question that somebody sent me was, doesn't anyone have questions yet? Come on, guys, ask away. The other question is burning on all of your minds, probably, or a lot of the people that I meet ask me this question. I'm just going to address it here. And what if you're homeschooling and your child wants to go to university? People always asking me that question. So I'm going to address that. And if any of you have experience with this, you can let us know, because we always learn from each other's experiences. For us, I'll tell you what we did, and I'll tell you what I've seen other people do. Okay. For us, we've learned that having a portfolio is very, very important. Okay. And some people have learned this the hard way, and some people have benefited a lot because they've done this. Building a portfolio is really wonderful, because it's kind of like it, and it helps for us. It helps with lots of things, much more than even going to university. But it just helps with doing anything really. If you've got proof of work, evidence of what you've done. And my oldest daughter. Oh, hey Cindy. Okay, you're new to the concept. Okay, so if you're at home and you homeschooling, and you, first of all, I just want to put out there that the world has changed a lot, and that in the past, in the present, our children, when they're big, they're going to change their job so many times. It's quite different to what it was in the past. People would have a job and they would stay in their job for 50 years. But if you look around you and you notice what's going on in the world, you see that people change their careers quite a lot, like radically, from one thing to another, to another, to another. It's not the same as it was in the past. And it's good to keep that in mind, because for us, when we've got our kids now, we're preparing them for the future. So we thought, okay, how best to prepare our child for the future. The future is not going to be the same as what it was for us when we were young. And learning and understanding that in the future, there are going to be jobs that don't even exist today. Okay, just grasp that concept. So there are going to be jobs in the future, careers that don't even have a name yet, and that don't even exist, and are even so far out there that we can't even picture the concept. Okay, you know how fast the world is moving and how it's changing. So how do you prepare somebody for to embrace and to maneuver and to sort of benefit and contribute in a world as an adult that is so different from when they're a child, and there's so many different careers out there. And that's good to keep in mind when you're homeschooling, okay? Because you can understand why. Okay, so and for us, we were always thinking, okay, how do you prepare somebody for a world that is like that? And preparing somebody, so you need to. We focused a lot on sort of. I've said this so many times before, but I'm going to just go over it again. I said this to everybody. How do you prepare someone for a world like that? And there are lots of qualities that you can learn and grow and practice in your life that can prepare you for things like that. And we found, and we see with our oldest daughter who finished varsity last year, that learning how to research, find information, and discern between all of the different the information that is out there. Because when I was a kid, we didn't have the internet, okay? I only remember the internet when I was like 20 something. And it's very different to having a whole bunch of encyclopedias in your house to having all of this knowledge at your fingertips online, okay? And the positive thing is everything is at your fingertips. All of the information is at your fingertips, okay? Negative thing is that there's a lot of rubbish as well. And so finding that information and learning it is not the difficult part. The difficult part is discerning what is junk and what is not junk, and how and having that ability to be able to do that. So we focus a lot on that, okay? And I do think that makes a huge difference. But also having the interest in actually learning, like. There's so much information out there, but if you're not interested in anything and you don't really care about learning anything, and learning stuff does not interest you, there's no point, because you have the information, but you're not going to go find it because you don't care really. It doesn't interest you. Nothing interests you. Learning is not interesting. It's boring. So sort of cultivating that love for wanting to learn new things, finding things, like making them, learning about different things, is wonderful. Think about it. If you want to learn stuff and you have everything at your fingertips to find that information, and you know how to discern between what is truth and what is a lie, and what is good information and what is bad, there's not much stopping you from learning anything, really, if you think about it. So I can use an example of I'll use my two youngest as an example. The one, she's very academic. She loves languages. She loves linguistics, and she loves physics, and like logic and those type of things. She goes online and she does university courses online. Like the places, the world is big, okay, and there's lots to learn. And when you come out of a schooling system, blinkers are like this. And it takes quite a while. I know some people takes quicker, okay? Some people are more tuned in, but it takes a normal person quite a long time to realize that it's not so boxed in, and that the possibilities are very, very big. And so for her, she was doing the Cambridge curriculum, and she's 16 now. She was doing Cambridge. She loves learning all of those things. Then she started doing courses online, like you can get a degree online. You can get it from any university in the world online. And so she was interested in these topics like linguistics and physics and things like that. And so she just started doing those. And so that's what she does. And she loves it. I mean, she does. It's so exciting for her. The subjects are amazing, and she's excited to learn, and she's choosing the subjects that she loves. And I had to actually drag her away from learning that. And that's an example of things not always being what they seem, and you don't have to stick. You don't have to squash them. No, you must stay here now. You're only 16. You can't do university maths now. You can't study philosophy. You don't do that when you're 16. So that's a mind shift for us as well. If anyone has any questions about that, go ahead and ask. But there's nothing stopping you from doing all of those things now, especially with the world we live in and with the technology that we have. So that's her, for example, always being excited to learn and find information. Also with my boy, totally different, loves building. He builds robots and furniture and everything you can think of that's building and inventing. And amazing what you can find. I mean, you can go, like, for example, he to learn things, he shadows people. He works with them. He works with people who make knives, and he works with people who make furniture, and he goes in and he just helps them, and he works with them, and then he looks online, and you can really, like, if you know how to find information, you can really find a lot of it and apply it and use it. And it's a totally different way of schooling and learning. I don't know if I must say schooling because it's kind of connotations of school, but it's very different. And you can start. I mean, a lot of people start their businesses when they're 16, because they've already got their skill and started their business. So I'm just going to answer a question from Cindy. What would you say are the basic key areas or subjects to focus on when starting? I have a 10-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a 4-year-old, like languages or maths. Okay, now we can go to that. But Cindy, will you remember that this is my experience and my perspective, and then just ask lots of different people, because people have different experiences. Okay. For us, what I did was, I feel that maths, reading, writing is essential. You have to know how to write if you want to. You have to know how to read. You have to know how to do maths. When I first started homeschooling, I was, like most people are when they start, I was always a little bit worried, like, oh dear, what if I fall behind? What if I miss out something? What if I'm not doing what everyone else is doing? What if I deprive them? I felt like that, and I know lots of people do feel like that. And if I had to start now, I would probably do it a little bit differently. But that's only because I'm more confident and have learned so much over the years. But what I did was to calm my own self, because you have to remember that when you're homeschooling, it's not just about your child. It's about your whole family. It's about you, your husband, your kids, your granny, your grandpa. It's a whole lifestyle change, and you have to do what's best for your family, and you have to do what's best for your circumstances and what builds your entire unit and what works for you. So what your circumstances are going to be different to mine and different to somebody else's. So you've got to bear in mind that you're going to do it in such a way that is going to be different to everybody else, and that's specific to you and your situation, your child, and your family. Okay, just remember that. Okay, for me, and I always say to people, if you're freaking out, just say you're the mom and the dad, and now you're freaking out because you're not sure, and do I have the books? And you're panicking because you've met somebody who said, don't worry, you don't have to do anything. And that made you panic because you thought, what, not do anything? How do I do that? And even though that person, when they say, don't worry, don't do anything, they're not saying sit and watch TV all day. They've experienced something, but it maybe make you panic, okay? For your own sanity and for my own sanity, what I did when my kids were little is I went and I found out, I went to like the educational bookstore and I found out what were all the grade 1s and 2s doing in school. And I saw all the different books and I chose one from each subject and I brought them home and I said, okay, to save my own sanity, now this probably wasn't necessary, but it was necessary because if you have a mother or a father who's in a panic all the time and can't calm themselves down, it's going to stress out everybody. So for my own sanity, I said, okay, let's just do what everyone else is doing in school. Here's the books. Do this, do this, do this. And then it was finished in like half an hour. And then I felt calm. And then the real learning started happening. And I was calm. So that's what I did when my kids were young. And that was to calm myself down because I didn't know another way. So if I meet somebody who says I'm in a panic, I feel like I need to do that because I'm freaking out, and they really want to, and it helps their sanity to go and do what everyone else is doing, do what's best for you and what's going to calm you down and what's going to work. Okay, that's what I say. That's what I say to that, Cindy. I hope that answered your question. But I just did what the grade was doing, and only later on I started relaxing and realizing, hang on, I can adapt this, I can change this. Wait a second. And as I said before, the real learning started happening after they finished all that stuff. So they just did it quickly to calm me down. And then we got excited, and then we went and we started dissecting animal, like little hearts and things like that, and we were making lap books, and if they were interested in cars, we would go to the car museum and we would draw the pictures of the cars, and if they were interested in dissecting animals, we would find dead animals and cut them open and look inside and make sort of like we really learned after we were calm, because there are lots of ways you can learn that aren't necessarily in a one single tiny little limited school book, if that makes sense. I hope that answered for you, Cindy. Okay, so I hope that answered for people. I feel that reading and writing is important. I don't unschool my kids. So some people unschool. You've heard unschool. You've heard there's some people who make their school, their home, like a classroom where they become a teacher, and they have this little classroom. I don't do that because I think I tried it a little bit in the beginning, and I remember my kids going, oh, where's my mom? Oh, my mother's turned into a principal. What happened to my home? Like I want to live at my school. And so I learned, thankfully learned that wasn't working. And since then, all the people that I've met, all of them who have tried that, it's taken them a few years to realize that it doesn't work, and it caused a lot of trauma and chaos in their family. So I'm telling you that now, maybe it can save you that pain. Is the people that I've met and myself who tried to make their home into a classroom, and the mother or the teacher, the father, the principal or whatever, didn't work. It just caused chaos and tears, and the whole dynamics of the family broke, and the mother became the teacher, and it made the children frustrated, the mother frustrated. They were fighting a lot, trying to force things, started hating learning, just like it happens in school. So from the people that I've spoken to in my own experience, I don't recommend that at all, because your home is not school, and you're not a teacher, you're a mom. And Having said that, I just want to touch on, thank you, Marby. I see your question. I'm going to answer it. She says, what do you suggest is best for the portfolio? I like the idea also of another veteran homeschool mom to start with, writing the AHA moments of our kids, seeing the learning. I think I understand that. It's best to add to the portfolio. Okay, I can use that as an example. Okay, so for my eldest daughter, she, I'm just using this as an example, and this doesn't always happen. Okay, so bear that in mind. But everything she had done in her whole life, she went to university without a matric. Okay, so she's got a Bachelor of Arts degree in film, and she went when she was 17. She hadn't written her matric or any exam, but she was invited to go because of her portfolio, and now she's got a degree without a matric. Okay, so, but I'm not saying to you, okay, everybody, you don't have to do anything. This is going to happen to you too. It's different for every situation. So don't take it as if your child wants to study to be a doctor, don't do anything and just arrive. But having said that, I have met homeschoolers who had all of their marks, didn't build a portfolio, especially if they want to study medicine or something, and couldn't get in because they didn't have a portfolio. And your portfolio is everything that you've done. So for her, from when she was little, she wrote a book when she was 6 or 7. She she spoke at events. She had tracks that she had written. She'd made little films. She'd done different courses, all courses that she'd done. And all of that was sent. Okay, so that's everything your child has done, basically. In fact, to send my boys one, he's built things, built decks and gazebos and all of the courses that they've done, it's everything that they've done in their portfolio. Because you know, it's like going for a job interview, you would rather hire someone on their proof of work. If they come with this big portfolio of everything they've done, you want to see that. And it's the same with university or any job. You want to see proof of work, you want to see what the person's done. And I mean, lots of people would rather hire someone based off that rather than a piece of paper. Okay, in lots of industries, it's like that. But not all of them, mind you. Some of them you have to have a degree. So I'm not saying in all of them, but something to bear in mind. Okay, so I hope that answered your question, Marby. Happening meaningful conversations, having insight to what is important to the child. Yes. She's commenting on doing things wholeheartedly. So yeah, as far as university goes, if I have to just touch on this, if you have a child who wants to be a doctor and wants to study medicine, and you have to be on the ball. Okay, so there are lots of jobs where you don't need a degree, you don't need to go to university. The world is different to what it was before. Often there are jobs where you don't even need a matric, and often people start their businesses before they're even 18 when they're homeschooled. Okay, it's quite common for that to happen. But there are some people who want to go to university, they want to be a doctor, they want to be a teacher in a school, lawyer. There's certain things that you have to remember that in order for your child to do that, they have to have a degree. Just so they're passionate about it, they want to be a medical doctor or they want to be a vet. They're really passionate, they want to do that. You've got to be on the ball, you've got to be prepared. Okay, so in order to do that, there are ways that when you're homeschooled, you can get into a university, but you've got to do your research. Okay, so there are curriculums that you can do that aren't necessarily the government curriculums that you can do, and building your portfolio and speaking to the university to find out what they want and what they need and how many points they need, that you can do to get your child into university. But the difference between homeschooling and school, if your child wants to go to university, is that it's also something to wrap your mind around, is the curriculums that you do, like I'm going to talk about the GED, the SATs, which is an American curriculum, and Cambridge. I don't have experience with the others. I don't want to speak about something I don't have experience with. So I'm going to speak about those two, okay? So, you see, they don't have to, you have to wrap your head around this now, okay? You don't have to have the grade before to do your finals, okay? So if we're speaking about doing Cambridge, for example, which is a UK curriculum, which is a very high standard and good quality education, okay? In order for you to write your finals in Cambridge, you don't have to do the years before. It's not like our school where you must do grade 11 to do grade 12 or you can't do grade 12. Okay, it's not like that. You can just write it whenever you want. So if you are 12 and you want to suddenly write your A-levels and you're a genius, you can enroll for them and write the exam. You don't have to have evidence of what you did before. You don't have to be, it doesn't matter what age you are. I can go write my A-levels now if I want to, my old age, with nothing to show before that, okay? So bear that in mind. It's something to wrap your head around. But, okay, if you know early, just say you know when your child is 13, 14, that they want to be a vet. It's good to prepare from then, okay? Because if they are going to go, just say you find the vet school that you want your child to go to. You phone them in, and you say, what does my child need to get into this university? They're going to give you a list of things they need. They need this portfolio. They need this marks in these subjects. They need this many points. You do your research. You find out then, and then you start prepping them from then. Okay. So for me, if my child wants to do, say, study medicine, I would prepare them because you got to get the points that the university wants, and you have to have the right subjects. Okay, so you find out in advance, but that doesn't mean like from grade 1, my child wants to be a doctor. I know it. Come, I'm going to force you to do all of these things. Usually when they're 14, 15, even if you just only started with that specific curriculum to get them into university at 14, 13, 14, it's enough time for them to be able to do it. Okay, I've met a girl who didn't want to do maths ever. She didn't like it. Her dad just left her and she built things, tree houses and things. Then one day she came to him and she said, Dad, I want to do A-levels maths. And she was about 15. And he said, okay, you'd write it over 2 years, So she got the book, studied it herself and got an A. And it's difficult to get that because she really wanted to and she was excited and she'd learned so much from practical maths. Okay, so that's an example. If you're doing GED, for example, there are criteria, and the criteria is, and that's an American curriculum, and that's more practical curriculum. The Cambridge one is more academic. The GED is more like a practical one. You have to be 17. That's the criteria before you write it, and you must check with your university to see what they accept. Okay, that's regarding universities. Okay, so that's if your child wants to go into a university. Some kids do, some kids don't. Some kids are desperate. They really want to have that experience. They want to go. They want to study that, and you don't want to take that opportunity away. But you do it together. It's something they want. And you're not fighting with them. I mean, you have to do this. Usually if it's their choice, if you've worked it out together, okay, this is what we need. You have to say you have a 14-year-old. I really want to study this. I've got friends whose kids want to study vets. And so, I mean, they've been working, they go to the labs at universities. They just like doing everything they can possibly. And it's their passion. They want to do it. They work their butts off to get there. There's none of the mom fighting with them to do their stuff because this is their life. And that's what I've noticed with my kids is that they taken their future and their life kind of into their own, on your own. You're not doing something because your teacher's making you or your mother's making you. You're doing it because you realize this is my future, this is my life. I want to build my future. It's like I want to do well because I want to get where I want to go and I want to do these things. And then, I found for me as a parent, my role to play is to make sure that they get all of that stuff. Make sure that they can go and get as much sort of experience as they can. Make sure that the people in their space that are passionate and educated and brilliant enough that they can learn from. Make sure they can get the information they need, get to where they need to go, help them with, like that's an example, if that makes sense. While we're speaking about that, it is important to know, and I know this is obvious, but I know I must say it because for some people it's not, is I've met people before who have said things to me like, but my child loves doing science and I hate science and I don't know anything about science. And I don't want to homeschool them because I'm scared that they're not going to learn much because I don't know that much because I don't have any doctorates or anything. And so, yeah, I've had people say that. And what I want to say to that is that you need to remember and realize that just because you are homeschooling your child doesn't mean that you are the only source of all of the knowledge that they're going to learn and all of the experiences they're going to have. And I know that sounds obvious now, but people do feel like that. They feel like, I don't know much. I didn't get high marks. What if everything my child is going to learn is only going to be as much as I know? And that is something that's got to smash up and disappear very quickly. Because when you're homeschooling, you're not homeschooling so that you can pour everything you know into them. Okay? You're like that's just the tip. That's just the tiny, tiny tip of the iceberg. They are going to learn much more than you know. I have found with me, much more than I know. Because I'm not the only source of information. I'm not the only source of inspiration. I'm not the only source of knowledge at all. Okay? But in order for them to find, because they've got other teachers and people to learn from and places to get information and people to follow and learn from and gain all of this inspiration and knowledge, they know more than I do on the topics that they love and they're passionate about and they do all day, much more than I know. And if my only hope was that, and my feeling was that all they're going to know is what I know, and I don't know that much, I can understand why people panic, because they're their own person and they're going to have their own passions and their own talents. And what if I can't feed that to them? What if I can't give that to them? And it's not about what your knowledge going into them, if that makes sense. But it is a responsibility as a parent, because and what's so wonderful about it is because you're with them all the time, and for us, our family dynamics are tight. We know one another. We with each other a lot. We do a lot of things together. They have time to figure out what they love, what they're good at. They try lots of different things, so they have time to figure out what they love and what they're good at. And we're just so happy and grateful that there has been like that, because I know I've seen children that are so busy trying to keep up. Amazing, clever kids, they're trying their best and they're in the system at school, and they want to just all they're doing is just applying themselves to those narrow things to get through. And when you say to them, what do you like? They say, I don't know. What do you want to do? Like, what makes you excited? I get high marks in maths, but you like it. I get high marks in it, and I've noticed that there are a lot of kids who don't actually know what they like or what they're good at or anything. Like, learning is just something they have to do. They're not excited about it. And so I'm very grateful for homeschooling because of it. Our kids have had an opportunity to figure out what they're good at and what they love, and they're excited. And it's a responsibility on our part, because we have to make sure that they can get. They say, I want this. I need this. I need to go to this lab. I need to learn. I need these machines. I need these tools. Or even, it's not necessarily always them saying, but like finding out from other people, what do they need in order to learn more on this regard. Okay, let's go and look at this. Let's try this. But I don't like that. I'm not sure about it. Okay, let's try another one. So it's a big responsibility on our part. That bear in mind that they're going to know, you want them to be able to figure out and learn and know much more than what you actually know. And things that they're talented and good at that might not necessarily be what you're good at. Okay, so I hope that answered some of your questions. Is there any, I'm going to go through one more question, and if you want me to, I can call my daughter, and she can answer a few questions. Some suggestions. Okay, so that's some of the other questions that I have. One of them is that people feel like, guys, this is such a huge topic, you know. It's really big. Okay, ask away. Is there anybody who wants to talk to my middle daughter? I can call her. She's the one that does all the online courses. She can talk to you a little bit about how she does that and how she likes it. If I get a thumbs up from anyone, I'm going to call her now, and then you can ask her questions if you want to. So I'm just waiting to see if anyone is going to ask. I can also call my boy. If anyone wants to ask him about how he does things, you can just let me know. Okay. When I see a yes on my comments, I'll call one of them. Okay. The other thing that I wanted to touch on is that you have to remember that everybody, I've said this a million times, but everybody does these things differently. Okay, you want to hear her. Okay, I'm going to call her. Okay, Cindy, I'm going to call Ruth. Okay. Ruth, can you come? Okay, she's coming. Okay, guys, so this is Ruth. Hello, everybody. She's my 16-year-old, and she's going to, if anyone has a question for her, can you please throw it in the comments, and then she will go and just let you know. Okay. In the meantime, oh, they're saying hi. Hello. Okay. If you have a question for her, you can ask. Otherwise, I'm going to just let her maybe tell you a bit about her homes. Maybe you can talk a bit about how you were doing Cambridge, why you decided to go into the things that you were doing.
Okay, so I was doing well, first when I was young, we just did like a whole mix of all the curriculums. And then I started doing the Cambridge curriculum, which is a really, really amazing, really good curriculum. But the thing is, it's a lot of work and it's a lot of memorizing, and it is difficult because it's academic, and it's very useful if you want to go into like being a doctor or studying law or something, because it's a very good curriculum. But the thing is, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. So I was sort of just forcing myself to sit through these long hours of just reading this books and memorizing these lists of things with no real sort of purpose to what I was doing. And I actually realized I was learning less from that just because I was forcing myself to do it than I would be if I just left the whole books and I just learned whatever I wanted to learn and did what I felt like doing and had motivation to do. So we left the Cambridge curriculum, not for good. If I need the Cambridge matric certificate, then I will just go back to the curriculum and finish it in a few years because I will have motivation and get my certificate. But if you don't need that certificate, matric certificate, which is a lot of work, it's a mission to put yourself through learning so much things that you're not really going to use unless you get the certificate. So now I'm busy learning whatever I want to learn, and it's absolutely amazing because I'm learning so much more than what I would have learned if I was just forcing myself to memorize lists of, I don't know, biospherian.
So what subjects, what do you do now? Maybe you can tell them about the subjects that you're doing and the courses.
Okay, so there are actually a lot of online material that people can do. Obviously, you have to be really excited to learn, and it takes a lot of effort and it takes a lot of sitting through stuff. And it's so it works if you're excited to learn. So now my grandpa teaches me French, and one of the homeschool mom teaches me Latin. And I've got a site online where I can do lots of online courses, which is so amazing. And they're the most interesting courses about the most random, interesting things that are so exciting to learn that nobody learns. Like, I'm doing a course now on Chinese religion, which is amazing because you learn so much about China, which is this massive superpower now and nobody knows very much about. So you learn what led up to all this crazy stuff that's happening in the world, you know, and you learn the whole thought behind everything. And then I'm doing a course. I've done lots before, but the ones I'm doing now, the two. The one of them is by Stanford University. You can do the course for free. If you want the certificate, you do have to pay, but if you don't need the certificate, you can do the whole course for free. You get all the material for free. And it's by Stanford University on mathematical thinking, which is in school, in the normal curriculums in school, you learn mathematical formulas and you learn mathematical, like what to do to get what you need to do in mathematics. You don't learn how mathematics actually works, which is strange. I find it strange. I feel like people should learn more how it works and then later learn the other stuff. So this course is basically a transition course between the school mathematics that people are learning and mathematics in the modern day, which has changed so much in the universities, because a lot of kids are going out of school into universities and the maths is completely different because they're using that maths. Instead of memorizing formulas to find an answer, they're using the whole way mathematics works and finding out things that they didn't know before. They're not observing the natural world and drawing the conclusions. They know the conclusions and they're drawing the world because it's gotten into realms where people just don't know what the heck's going on. So it's so interesting because you learn what's behind all the formulas and what's actually going on there. It's amazing.
Awesome. And if anyone has a question, you can ask it now for her. In the meantime, what other courses have you done and what did you learn from them?
Oh, so much. Probably one of the biggest things is to learn how to learn in the online world, because obviously things aren't just handed to you on a spoon-fed. You have to look for information and find information. If you're just doing this course being spoon-fed, I mean, you won't really learn much because it's easy to trick the system and it's easy to, if you just want to get the certificate, you're not really going to learn that much. But if you want to learn, you find the courses you want to learn, you go online and you research completely different things, you find people who are interested in it and you talk to them about it, and you can actually learn so many amazing things. So that's probably the biggest lesson I learned from that, is learning how to learn.
That's a good lesson.
Very good lesson.
Alison has a question. She's what an intelligent, well-spoken, confident 16-year-old.
I'm flattered.
Yeah, so okay, here is a question. Oh, okay. She said thank you. Okay. Thank you, Ruth, for that. Thank you so much. If anybody, do you want to ask, can you let me know if you want me to call? My boy is a totally different learning style. He builds things. If you want, you can speak to him and ask some questions. And then my oldest daughter, who has finished university, is also here. So if you want to speak to one of them or ask any questions about them, will you let me know? And then you can actually speak to some kids and see how they feel from their perspective about how things are going. It's sometimes nice. For me, I would think it's nice to actually hear from them, So you can let me know. And then if there are any big questions that anybody has that we haven't touched on, type them over there. I know that this topic is way bigger than where we have. Oh, sorry. Are any of the kids studying IT? No, none of my kids are studying IT. Sorry, I can't give you information on that. Yes, okay. So somebody said they want to hear some different experiences. So I'm going to call my boy, and then I'm going to call my oldest one who's been to university, and you can hear from the different learning styles and the different experiences that they've had. Okay. Thanks, Ruthie.
Later.
Can you call Joe? Okay, so now I'm going to just get Joe. Joe learns from building, making. He's an outside boy. He's learns from doing. Because some people learn from they enjoy reading and writing, finding information, academics like her. Some people learn from doing. So for them. Oh, there's somebody here who says that they're homeschooling themselves IT. That's awesome. How old are you? And where are you from? Thanks, Marby. I'll tell Ruth. Here comes Joe. If you have a question for Joe, this is Joe. If you have a question for Joe, can you just pop it in the comments? And then in the meantime, I can ask you a question. And this one from your experience. Like, what do you love doing the most? Where do you learn the most? How do you learn the most? Maybe doing what?
Like all in one go.
Yeah. What's your favorite? What's your passion? What do you love doing?
Building, for sure. I love building, learning with my hands, just figuring it out for myself. Like going into the workshop, seeing someone do it, then do it myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Who's got a question for him? Okay, so building, what kind of things you build? How do you learn the most? Like, from where do you learn the most? From people, from places, from doing,
I think. Like, just try until I get it right, and then I can do it eventually after my 20,000 fails.
And like, do you do any actual lessons? You can maybe answer that.
No,
like the things that you do, like the robotics and the.
Oh, and robotics. Yeah, I have a robotics class I go to learn to program them and things. All the weird wireless things I do, but only not often.
Is it something, and maybe what your career you want? Have you got a career path that you can think of, or what does it involve doing?
Definitely building, but I'm not sure what to do yet.
Okay, I think there's a question. Oh, somebody said, what would you love to build? And maybe what you're building now and what you love building.
Yeah, I'm busy building a robot for Robot Wars. So I would love to finish building that. It just costs a decent amount to get all the electronics for it and stuff.
And what have you built before?
Wood
things and
I built a deck, I built a gazebo, I built a wall, I built a bar, I built a decent amount of things.
He's our builder. He also works on our small holding because he's the hands-on on the small holding. He runs the estate. One more question. My son Joshua is 9 years. He asks whether you can suggest any building apps or online games.
Ooh.
Or how do you find your information online? And
I'll just Google what I want to build, and I'll watch 1 or 2 videos, see the best tricks to do it, and then figure out the rest.
Marby says, hi, Joe. I'm saying hi. Cool. I think that's cool. No, thank you, Joe. Can you call Breeze? Okay, last one. We're going to call Breeze. So these are like totally different learning styles. Breeze is the one who's just been to university. She actually graduated cum laude and was a valedictorian of the varsity. And she's going to talk to you about her experience. She's actually the filmmaker for the Home Ed documentary. So,
wow! Hello.
Okay, this is Breeze.
Gee, look at all these people.
So, if anyone, were there challenges adapting to studying at university? Is a question from Ash, from Karen.
I think there's always challenges adopting that you have to kind of get around and get used to going into varsity, no matter what you do before, I think. But no, not really. There weren't any big. I felt very prepared to go to varsity, especially in the social aspect. I felt very comfortable in who I was, kind of, and confident in that. So it was a nice experience for me to go into varsity and have that kind of stable feeling in myself that homeschooling gave me. So I don't feel like it was more of a struggle because I was homeschooled. I feel like it actually prepared me better in my experience. So yeah.
And also like maybe physically. like physically, after being at home and then going into from being out of a system and then going into a system? Like, what was that transition like?
I don't know. Varsity is different to school, I guess. I mean, varsity, it's kind of similar in the sense that you have to be self-disciplined and self-motivated, which were things that were quite high in priority for me as a homeschooler. You know, you have to kind of be self-motivated and you know, you kind of develop that skill. So that was useful in varsity. It didn't really feel like I was being taken out of something familiar and then put into something completely unfamiliar. It was quite similar in the sense that you're responsible for the thing that you're going to do, and no one's going to help you out with like your varsity work. You're responsible to get that done. You know what I mean? So
yeah, cool.
Yeah.
And anyone else have a question for Breeze? Maybe I could just ask you something that I think people might want to know. If I would want to know if I was wanting to go to university, like, okay, how do you think a person can prepare their kids for getting into university? What tips would you give? Things that you would do, or things that you might maybe wouldn't do? Things that benefited you, that you're glad happened when you were homeschooled, that helped you at varsity. But hang on, here's a question. Do you find your passion and self-motivation are tied together? Your passion and self-motivation. Are you only self-motivated because it's something you love? So maybe explain that.
Often, I mean, it sure helps to be passionate about the thing that you need to get done. You know, it does help with self-motivation, but I think also, you know, sometimes you just got to get a thing done to get somewhere else, even if you maybe don't enjoy that particular moment that you're going through. You know that in hindsight, it's going to benefit you to get it done. Yeah, so that's.
So you still do it even if you don't feel like it because you want to.
Yeah, because I know it's going to like.
Yeah, and how? Okay, for people here with kids that what would you recommend that they do that helped you in order to get them ready to?
Definitely the self, like instill a sense of responsibility in the self. So like being able to motivate yourself is will help me a lot. Like because I had developed that ability. That was probably the biggest thing that did push me through, because it is difficult and it is tough and it is strenuous and it is new in some ways. But as long as you know that you know how to do the research and you can motivate yourself and you can push through it, you can get a lot done. So I'm very glad that for the self-motivation thing, being able to make myself look at this thing and understand it on my own without someone like constantly being on my case. Yeah, basically.
That's good. Okay, one more question. Anyone have a question? Someone who's been in varsity. Yeah, that was the thing. That helped you. Wow, cool.
Probably the biggest thing, yeah.
Great. Okay. If there are no more questions for Breeze, the documentary, the full-length documentary that we're making on home education, she's the filmmaker for it. I'm the director for it. And it's an hour long. It's going to come out at the end of this year. It's following our family and another family across South Africa, meeting different people who home educate. So she's busy editing it now, and we'll post it up and you guys can see from different people's perspectives. Okay. I don't see any more questions. Okay, chaps.
Peace out.
Thanks, Breeze. Okay, darlings, everybody. I hope that this was beneficial for you. Oh, there's one more question. Do you perhaps feel you have an advantage in filming as you dove into the passion sooner, having more freedom? Okay, let me call her for that. Breeze, one more question. Ooh, Breeze most wanted. It's interesting hearing different people's. Okay, it says, do you perhaps feel you had an advantage in filming as you dove into the passion sooner, having more freedom to pursue what you love? Because you started doing that from when you were a kid.
Yeah, but I think I may have just done that regardless.
So, do you feel you had an advantage in filming as you dove into the passion sooner, having more freedom to pursue what you love? Oh, so because you went into film school when you were 17, you were ready.
Right, I didn't even do matric.
You were ready and excited, and it was your passion.
Yeah, so yes.
So to that, perhaps.
And also, I mean, like there was always like art stuff going on because that creative side of me, I think, was developed a lot more. I think in homeschooling, I was able to develop that a lot more. You know, a creative thinking because there was more time there, right?
Yeah, and then the advantage in going to the university, because it was your passion, and you could have started it sooner rather than later. I think, you know, like instead of waiting so long, and you really just want to do what you love now. But now you must wait and finish all these other things before you can do what you want. Like, did you have because you did so well at varsity and you were the valedictorian and you got the highest marks. Do you think that was your advantage, that you went in when you were ready and passionate to do it with all of your heart? Do you think that is an advantage for a person to be able to do
I
that?
think there's a plus and a minus side to that, because sometimes you can feel like you want to do the thing, but sometimes you have to stick out stuff. And you just have to grind through it and you have to get it done. And that's a good skill to learn, like, because that happens in life. Like there are some times where you just have to like push through a bit. But there are also sometimes when you are so ready and like exploding with all this stuff that to actually sit back and let time go by is just like painful, like almost, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think in those moments, just being able to have the discernment between when you have to slug through a thing and get it done because that's just what you got to do, or like you're so ready you're gonna freaking explode. And that is like for me that's how it was. It was like dynamite. It was so ready. Like it's like boom, you know. So
definitely. And I suppose that's where parents, you come in with your kids, is that you work it out together, because you have to make sure they're ready and when is the right time, and it's like quite a juggle. But she was exploding, and then they phoned and they said, we want your daughter, can she come?
And we were like,
and then on the Monday they phoned, on a Friday she was there.
Thank goodness.
So it happened. It was like very blessed that happened like that way.
That was quick, wasn't it?
It was very quick. She was getting ready to do her A levels that year. I was just about to buy the books, and they phoned, and she was in the university, and she was ready, and it was perfect timing. And it doesn't always happen that way, but in this case it did, and I think it was an advantage for you. She was so ready. Awesome. Awesome. Thanks, Bree.
All right.
Thanks, Bree. They said thanks. Marby said thanks. Okay, everybody. Okay, I'm going to end off now. I hope this was beneficial for you. If you have any other questions that you just remember later on, you can put them in the feed. I'll try and answer them as time goes by. If you want to share this video, somebody said yes, definitely. Thank you so much. This has really helped my mind at ease. Thank you very much. I'm glad it helped you. I'm very, very happy to hear it. I'm very happy to hear it. There's lots more to talk about. It's very wide, very big. Please put your comments there. I'll try answer. And please do yourself a favor. Make sure your whole family are on board with you and that you're doing it together. It's a whole family expedition. Number one. Number two, speak to lots of different people, get different perspectives, but always adapt them according to your own children and your own family and your own life. There is not one way fits all for homeschooling. And also, you got to change your mindset, but it's quite difficult, takes a while. But there is a lot more to talk about this. But we're very grateful and blessed that we could homeschool, and I have to say I can't even believe how wonderful it is, and I'm grateful to my husband for working so hard so that we can, and definitely worth it. So thanks for joining us, guys. I'm going to sign off now. Okay, have a wonderful Saturday. Bye.